Well, here we are, Notre Dame fans. Another star-studded edition of Here Come the Irish. Vic Lombardi alongside Ryan Harris. I say star-studded because you're going to be visiting with your colleague a little later in the show. You want to preview that, Ryan?
Paul Burmeister and I are going to have a fantastic conversation about Irish football and what it's like to be in the booth with a hungry lineman all the time. You know a little bit about that, Vic.
Oh, man. Yeah, can't fill the fridge enough. You also know what it's like losing a devastating game, one that you think you should win. You probably did it yourself a couple times during the course of your career. If you're Notre Dame after losing to Marshall the way the Irish did, how do you rebound from that?
One, it starts with belief. That's on Marcus Freeman to build the belief of the team that they can continue to put a great season together. And then it's on coaches to figure out how they can get players to play fast. The biggest issue I saw over the last two games is the other teams were faster, both Ohio State and Marshall. They understood the urgency. And then lastly, personnel. There need to be some changes. A couple of them are forced upon the Irish with the injury to Tyler Buckner. But there need to be some other changes as well. If I can see them, the coaches can. So instill belief and then figure out what you need to do to get the players to play fast. Yeah. And then lastly, make sure you make some personnel changes.
So let's start with play fast. I don't think you mean like physically fast. Get the plays in. Let's go communicate faster. Let's get it going, that kind of fast.
Well, one issue that was glaring after last week's game, you had a penalty and then had to take a timeout. I believe it was the third quarter after that penalty. Get the play in and give the players confidence. Anytime you're waiting, especially as a lineman in your stance, you're losing your aggressiveness. One of the great things that Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger did is they would have a quick count. They'd be up on the line with a run that no matter what happened, we could block it. These are the kinds of plays that Notre Dame has to major in to get the momentum going, especially on offense.
So you lose your starting quarterback to injury for possibly the entire season. The good news is Drew Pine does have experience. He played a big role in beating Wisconsin last year. How big a factor will that be?
Well, he has tremendous experience, like you mentioned. But the other thing, too, Drew Pine has a little juice with him. The guys move a little quicker and things like that. He does have to look out for locking in on one receiver the entire route. That's what got him that pick deep down there by the end zone. But Drew Pine is a fantastic quarterback, could start many other places in the country. And then you've got Steve Angeli right behind him. So there's talent at Notre Dame at the quarterback position. And that's one of the things that you're thankful for the program, that they were able to have dynamic quarterbacks who are at the ready for an injury like this to Tyler Buckner.
What is going on in college football these days, Ryan? All right, Notre Dame loses to Marshall at home. Texas A&M gets beat by Appalachian State at home. Nebraska loses to Georgia Southern at home. This is happening more often. Why?
Well, the big thing people are missing is that transfer portal. A lot of teams are going and getting fifth or sixth-year quarterbacks to play that position. That position, more than any other, benefits from experience. And the Irish are going to find another veteran quarterback this week in Jack Plummer at Cal.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The transfer portal sort of evens things out a little bit. Cal comes in 2-0. It's a Pac-12 squad. You always respect your opponent. They've beaten UNLV. They've beaten UC Davis. I don't think you need much of a pep talk anymore if you're Marcus Freeman, do you? You just, hey, guys, we're 0-2. We got to win.
Well, and it's tough at Notre Dame to say, hey, this is the biggest game of the season, right? Because you have so many. How about go punish them for getting on the field with you? Prove to them that they are not willing, worthy, or able to battle against you. And that's something that I did every game. I took it as an offense. You were offending me by stepping on the field across from me thinking you could play. And I was going to show you for 4 quarters how wrong of a decision you made. That's where you have to be if you're Notre Dame. It's not about big games. It's about go punish your opponent and dominate them for thinking they can play with you.
I like that approach. Just look across the line of scrimmage and say, you insult me with your presence. See if it works this weekend. We're going to talk much more about the opponent this weekend. Cal will also visit with Paul Burmeister, a couple writers from the Observer, of course, and then our weekly VIX picks. But first, take a look back at the history between Notre Dame and Cal.
is one of my favorite parts of the show. Please welcome Aiden Thomas from The Observer so we can tackle the defense of the Golden Bears. Welcome, Aiden.
Thanks, Ryan. How's it going, man?
Doing good, doing good. So tell us what we got here. A brief, big overview of the California Golden Bears defense.
Yeah, so the defense for Cal over the last few years has really been the strength for Justin Wilcox while he's been the coach there. And they've really kind of developed a really great scheme and system that really works no matter as they kind of as they lose players to the draft and bring new players in. It's really been working year in, year out for them. The big strength of this unit is the linebackers, and then the secondary has traditionally been very good, although they're adding in some new faces to that unit this year. So kind of when it comes to Cal, you're looking at trying to maybe attack them up with the defensive line in the trenches where they're a little bit weaker, and try to stay away from some of their top playmakers, which are in the linebacker and secondary.
Well, one of those playmakers is Xavier Carlton. Tell me about who he is and what he does.
Yeah, Xavier Carlton, he's going to line up at outside linebacker, and he's going to do a little bit of everything, but Wilcox loves to use him in blitz packages. He's already picked up 2.5 sacks this year, and you can bet, Notre Dame, after seeing the film with Notre Dame and how they struggled to defend Tommy Eichenberg against Ohio State, you can bet he's going to try to figure out ways to get Carlton loose in these blitz packages and really rattle Pine in his first career start. So you really, Carlton's going to be all over the place, and he's going to be challenging an offensive line that has really struggled through 2 weeks. So he's going to be kind of the X factor. If Notre Dame can stop Carlton, they're going to force Cal to beat them defensively with players that haven't really stepped up so far in their careers.
All right, Aiden, well, you don't just got the fresh, new blonded tips. You also got plays. What do you think will be successful against the Cal defense?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little tough to predict right now. I wrote at the beginning of the season, I was like, this Cal game's only gonna be tricky if Notre Dame's offense is struggling out of the gate, which it really is. So you kind of got to wonder like what exactly it's gonna look like under Pine now with Buckner out. And so I think it's going to have to start with the run game. In the first 2 games, Cal hasn't allowed that many points, but against their opposing lead backs, they've given up 28 carries for 199 yards, so a little over 7 yards a carry. If Notre Dame can start asserting themselves in the trenches, which they really should be able to do with this offensive line, and get Diggs and Estime and Tyree going in that ground game, I think that's going to be your starting point. And then from there, it's about activating someone that's not Michael Mayer in the pass game. You can lean on Mayer. He's a fantastic player. He's an All-American, but you need other players. You need somebody that can stretch the field and you got to hit that big play, but you really need Styles, you need Lindsey, you need Jaden Thomas. You need somebody other than Mayer to really step up and have a big game. So that way you have a couple options in the passing game once you've established that ground game.
Well, he is Aiden Thomas from The Observer. Great new look, my friend. Thanks for joining us. And take a listen now to what Coach Freeman had to say about the Cal Bears.
We are still very positive and optimistic about our future moving forward and following in with Drew Pine as leading our offense. And I'm excited for his opportunity and what he's going to present to our football team. And, obviously the last 36 hours has been, a reality check for all of us, from the coaches, the head coach, to the assistant coaches, to our players, and doing a deep evaluation of everything we're doing.
All right, let's bring in the experts to learn a little more about that Cal football team. The 2-0 Bears will start from The Observer. You remember her from last year's show, Mannion McGinley. Mannion, how are you?
I'm doing well, Vic. How are you?
I'm great. So those first 2 games weren't pretty. Those were not fun. Did you cover both games for The Observer?
I was covering the Marshall game. That was an interesting job for sure.
Especially because I was there when you lost games that everybody thought you had in the bag, right? Those are the most shocking to the system. What was the student body's reaction to losing to Marshall?
It was a big shock. No one was ready for it. But what I will say is sitting in the press box and looking at the full student section for the whole game and through the alma mater, I think that was really supportive. And I think that's I hope that's with our team, because it was important to me to see that, nobody leaving, nothing like that. Everybody stayed all the way through.
That's the beauty of Notre Dame, man. Nobody splinters when the times are tough. All right. Talk to us about Cal. What's this offense all about?
Yeah, so this is definitely a passing offense. Jack Plummer is new to the team, but he's from Purdue. He did really well last year. He's been doing great this year so far. He's been above 65% on completions, which is a feat the Irish haven't been able to accomplish, but maybe Drew Pine will be the one who can pull that off for the first time for us. But in terms of he's been the head of the offense. He's been calm. He's been steady. So yeah, it's really going to center around him. They were over 400 yards in week 1, so it's really going to have to center around him, and he's going to need his pocket to stay strong against this Irish defensive line.
See, this is why in college football in the modern age, you cannot afford to take any team lightly because of that transfer portal. I mean, you bring in a veteran quarterback who's been there and done that at Purdue, and he's ready to do the same thing at Cal. It's a Power 5 school, right? This is a Power 5 school with a lot of talent. What about their run game? Outside of the passing game, can they run the ball?
They can a little bit. I think they've got a decent amount of depth at running back, but so you're gonna have to look for different faces for sure if you're the Irish defense. But nobody's had a breakout game so far. I don't think anyone has broken 60 yards individually. So while they're using the run game, it's not the main feature, and I think that might be a little bit of hope for the Irish defense, who can focus on really going after Plummer.
It's hard to lay any blame on the Irish defense after those first 2 games, because against Ohio State, I thought they were tremendous. Then you had the foibles against Marshall. But what area, if there is any, with the Notre Dame defense, is there anything you could point to that they have to sharpen up?
Yeah, I think that they're just going to have to make the big stops. There's going to have to be stamina. We cannot let another fourth quarter drive go all the way down the field. And so I think the Irish defense is really going to have to step up in that setting. But they know they've handled Plummer before. Both UNLV and UC Davis have been able to get sacks in the last 2 weeks. So I expect to see the Irish do the same, especially since last year at Purdue, this defensive line was able to get to him, or individuals who have returned from last year's defensive line were able to get to him. So I really think they're just going to have to be stronger than Cal's O-line and make sure they're getting pressure where it needs to be.
All right, man. I like what you've done with the background this year. Really dressed it up.
Thank you.
Nicely done. I mean, it's completely different from last season. You're a pro's pro now. Mannion McGinley, class of 23 for the Notre Dame Observer. Thank you very much for your insight. Now it's time to hear from the Cal head coach, Travis Wilcox.
I would say that their record's not indicative of the team that they are. I mean, it's very easy to turn on the tape and have a great deal of respect for not only the players, but the schemes. And so I'm sure those games didn't turn out like they had planned, but it's going to take our best football. And we have, a lot of respect for them, and obviously, and they got a ton of talent. So we know they're going to show up and play hard, and we need to have a great week of practice and get as prepared as we possibly can be.
Well, welcome to one of my favorite segments when I get to interview a Notre Dame great. And although this Notre Dame great did not play at Notre Dame, he did play quarterback, had a legendary career at Iowa, and is the voice of your Irish alongside me in the radio booth. Please welcome the man, the myth, the legend, one of the greatest broadcasters alive today, Paul Burmeister. Paul, welcome, brother.
Ryan, great to see you. Good to hear you. I never feel worthy after you give me these kind of introductions, no matter if it's socially or professionally. It's all at once a compliment, and I don't feel quite worthy. So I guess it's my way of saying thank you. Always nice to be next to you.
Well, hey, man, you're one of the greats of all time. And the broadcasting world is so interesting to people. The travel, the work that goes behind it. But let's just start. How did you become great at broadcasting? What was your path after being a dominant quarterback at Iowa?
I'm still working at being great, Ryan, and that's that is the honest truth. And I think that feeling of wanting to be good at this is what led me to be fortunate enough to be this far along that path. I was in local TV back home in Eastern Iowa for 6 years. And just like you watched the news at 6, 10, and 11 in Denver, I was the sportscaster at the NBC and the ABC prior to that a little bit at 6 and 10 o'clock. And in it, I found something that was a great challenge. The red light went on. I felt those nerves that felt familiar, kind of like being a quarterback out there at Kinnick Stadium. So I found something that felt good to me. It felt difficult, but the challenge of it really spoke to me. And those 6 years were, it's a wonderful teaching tool to be in local news. Went to NFL Network for 10 years from there, and I've been at NBC the last 8, and lucky enough to be next to you now for 5 seasons as the voices of Notre Dame football. So I guess long way of saying, still working at being great, but it's a challenge I enjoy because it's a familiar kind of feeling dating back to my football career.
I love it. And for those watching, the first time Paul and I actually met, he was with NFL Network. We did a little interview at the Senior Bowl. So it was fun to reconnect as voices of the Irish. And one of the things, whether you believe you're great at it or not, Paul, is you are a fantastic communicator. And everybody watching is going to have a conversation either with employees, with their bosses. What are some keys to communication from the legendary play-by-play voice of the Irish, Paul Burmeister?
I think it's when you are anticipating an interaction, and whether it's with you or anybody else professionally at NBC, for me, I spend time thinking about it, and I've got a clear picture in my mind of what matters the most in terms of that communication, whether it's a broadcast or just a five-minute interaction. I've got an idea in my mind of what it would mean for that to go well, and what do I need to let this person know of for us to have a productive back and forth. So I've got a clear image in my mind of what I think matters. And I think I've gotten better at, not great at yet, but gotten better at articulating and getting right to it, being efficient about the point. And I think those two things, clear mind, a goal of efficiency, and knowing what success would be beforehand or what I picture it to be, those things all help with any kind of communication I'm heading into.
Well, I love it. Let's talk about your enjoyment of being in the booth at Notre Dame. Just from where you began coming on campus, what was that like? Just keep us there, and then we'll move from there.
So unlike you, Ryan, I mean, you had a wonderful career as a player there. I grew up with football in my life, just being aware of what Notre Dame football and what a Saturday in South Bend during the fall, I was aware of what that meant to the total national college football landscape, and was always attracted to, I was always interested in it. Can't say I hated it or loved it like a lot of people say about Notre Dame. I was just aware of how important it was, and I was always drawn to paying attention. And when I was lucky enough to get the job and came to campus, there was a lot of learning. I had not been there a whole lot. I'd been there with through my work at NBC a handful of times. My familiarity with what the place is and what it means was nowhere near yours. So it was an accelerated learning curve and something that happened right away. But my main excitement for being there was knowing how significant South Bend Saturdays in the fall were to the entire college football landscape. And we just kind of took it from there.
Well, we've been able to see many great players in our time in the booth. And I always say to you, look at that sun shining on the Golden Dome. But before we get to those players, what have you found to be one of your favorite parts of Saturday game day in South Bend, or in general on campus? One of your favorite buildings or areas that you like?
I grew up in a college town in the Midwest, Ryan. I grew up in Iowa City, and Iowa City and South Bend are different. But to me, it made South Bend feel like home and a place I wanted to be right away. There's something about a Midwest college town where the heart of the town, its DNA, is about the campus and the energy that brings. That's how I grew up in Iowa City, and that's what I've found in South Bend. So immediately, as I was trying to get to know the specifics of South Bend and the campus and the football program, it felt like something that it just felt good to me because that's how I grew up. And I would say, as far as being in the booth, I've had a number of different roles I've played as a broadcaster, and some of them from the outside looking in, Ryan, may look like boy, that's how cool is it to be there? And any job working in sports, in sports broadcasting, is fun, but some are better than others. And walking into that stadium, walking into the booth, and being at a sold-out Notre Dame stadium, I mean, whether it's the Olympics or Stanley Cup final or Super Bowl, those are all fantastic. But my Saturdays in the booth with you, Ryan, and I would say this, obviously it works because we're talking about Notre Dame on a Notre Dame show right here, but I would say it anywhere. Being in the booth with you and being able to broadcast Notre Dame football every Saturday is a true gift. And it's one that I cherish every single time. And that I can't tell you in any more sincere way how much that means to me.
Well, hey, I feel it, brother. And we're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to work next to you. One great professional that I've constantly learned from, Paul Burmeister. And we've also saw some awesome professionals, whether it's, Jerome Bettis coming back for a game or something like that. But when you think about some of the players and performances we've seen in the booth, what are some of the players that come to mind, those moments, those games in our history?
The player that comes to mind the most is Kyron Williams, not only because of the talent and the big plays that he made, Ryan, but he always seemed to me to be like the guy who was trying the hardest out there. And I mean, I'm far enough along in understanding football and seen a lot to know there's a lot more to it than that. But when somebody's effort is even better than their great talent and they show up making plays because of that combination, it really makes a difference. So Kyron Williams is the one that stands out to me the most in terms of guys that we've watched in the booth the last few years. I loved watching him play. Wish him luck with the Rams, even though he's on the injured reserve right now. And I certainly miss watching him play. In terms of like guys in the past, Joe Montana comes to mind. In my brief time with the Vikings as a free agent quarterback, I remember playing the Raiders in the preseason, and Tim Brown was he was pretty far along in his career at that point. But the way he moved on the field, it was like he was on level 10 with his quickness and burst, and everybody else, even as professionals, was like on level 7. And seeing that, that made a giant impression on me with Tim Brown's talent. So those are a couple of guys I think of that we weren't able to cover in the booth, but are synonymous with Notre Dame to me.
Well, one of the benefits, too, you played quarterback, so you have a lot of insight. Walk people through, what's it like to be a quarterback in college football?
Wonderful. It was different in 1992 and 1993 than it is now, Ryan. I mean, obviously, quarterbacks are throwing for 300 yards a game all the time. They have, 5 possible pass catchers out in a route where we might have had 2 or 3. So the game has evolved offensively to the benefit of the quarterback and the kind of numbers they put up. But it hasn't changed in this sense, is that whether it's in Iowa City or South Bend, when you walk out of the locker room, you walk out of the tunnel, and you walk out onto that field on a Saturday afternoon, and there's 70 or 80,000 people there, you're on national TV, and you're the quarterback. You have respect for everybody else out there, and you know you need them, but you also know that a lot of it is on you. And that feeling of pressure, that rush of energy and adrenaline, and everything that comes along with that for those 3.5 hours, that hasn't changed. And if you're into that kind of pressure, if it speaks to you, if you can enjoy it, there's nothing else in the world like it. So I know things have changed, but I think 30 years later, whether it's Ian Book or Tyler Buckner or Drew Pine, they would tell you the same thing, especially as they get older, that feeling of walking out there and what you're about to do and the power that position holds, that's a rush like nothing else. And I mean, that's what it's like playing college football quarterback.
I love it. And part of that rush, you have to produce, right? And we've seen all kinds of throws, but just for people who are, watching this, what are a couple of throws in college that you think are super difficult that people might overlook?
I think anything where you're on one hash, Ryan, and throwing to the other sideline. So let's say coming up on Saturday, if Drew Pine hits Lorenzo Styles for a 15-yard out route, that's great. 15 yards, the chains move. We love it. We're cheering up there in the booth. But if you're on the left hash, you throw that to the right hash, you throw in that distance, it's about a 35 or 40-yard throw that needs velocity. So I think anything that is from one side of the field to the other, much more so than a deep throw down the field, those are a little easier to make. The ones that you have to really drive and cut through the air, and like if you can picture in baseball, like a shortstop going to the hole and having to rip that thing across the field to first base, that's a 15-yard out from one hash to the far sideline. That's about a 40-yard throw. I think those are the ones that are the most difficult.
Well, we're going to stop you with that because I don't want you to give people the idea that quarterbacks are more skilled than offensive linemen, but right there, it's something that we both love to see when players make those big throws, and really on either team, because we know that's an important tool if they want to continue playing. Well, you can catch Paul and I every Saturday, every chance that the Irish get a W, and you'll catch us this weekend in the booth. Thanks so much for joining us, Paul.
You got it, Ryan. Good to see you, pal.
And next comes Vic's Picks, where you get to beat Vic Lombardi.
All right, everybody, it's time for your favorite segment of the show. It's my favorite. It is Vic's Picks, where every week we ask alumni, Subway alumni, friends of the family, to pick the winner of the game. We're going to go for this. All right, will Notre Dame win or lose? Will Notre Dame cover the spread? And how many yards of total offense? If you are closer than me in those three picks, you win a Here Come the Irish hoodie. And for those of you that have won those, you know how valuable they are. You can also buy one of those. Just go to that website there right below. Here Come the Irish-shop.com, squarespace.com. So if you want to buy one and pretend you beat me, fine. Go about it that route. So every single guest will make the first three predictions, and then we'll ask for your final score. Let's before we kick it off, I do want to congratulate one winner from our first show, the only person besides myself who actually had Ohio State winning that game, unfortunately, Ian Galbraith, who won himself a Here Come the Irish hoodie. So congratulations to Ian. Let's begin today with our first guest representing the Athletic Directors Circle, Doug Sioka, class of 93. What's up, Doug?
Hey, Vic. How you doing today, man?
Good.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for having some time for us today. Tell us, Doug, before we get going, what dorm?
I was in St. Edward's Hall.
St. Ed's. I remember. Didn't that undergo some major reconstruction?
It did subsequent to my graduation, yes.
Weren't you the cause of that reconstruction, from what we're told?
I didn't know. I thought this was a football show, not a crime scene investigation.
We talk a little bit of everything on this show, Doug. That's the beauty of it. But if you want to talk football, I mean, I'm sure no one is happy after the 0-2 start, but here comes Cal. And I'd love to get your thoughts. Will Notre Dame win or lose? Give us all your picks on Notre Dame, California.
Yeah, I think the Irish are going to win. I think they'll cover. I know we talked about a projection on total offensive yardage. I'm predicting 425 yards. I actually think, Vic, the playbook got a little smaller now that Drew Pine's going to start in place of Tyler Buckner. And I think that's beneficial, right? I think there's less of an opportunity for the offense to outsmart itself. We got to focus on our strengths, which are going to be strength and speed. Look, we're bigger and faster than Cal, so let's keep it simple and capitalize on the skill advantage.
That's such a great point. Sometimes keeping it simple is the easiest route to winning football games, especially, as you mentioned, you're a better football team. You're a more talented football team. Let's hope your prediction is right. Doug, thank you very much, my friend.
Thanks, Vic. Go Irish.
All right. Our next contestant from the Soren Society, Kathy Link, who is a Notre Dame parent from Allentown, PA. How you doing, Kathy?
Vic, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on today.
So which kid or kids attended the school?
So my daughter, Madeline, is a member of the class of 20, the great class, the COVID class of 2020. The university did an amazing job of bringing that class back this year for their postponed graduation. It was an awesome weekend. Can't say enough about it. And she's back now doing a master's in theological studies. So halfway to being a double domer.
Wow, that's a rare feat. That's awesome to hear. Okay, Kathy, who do you like? Give us your picks.
Well, Vic, there's no way we can't win this week. It's Irish Wear Green week. So I have the Irish winning 30-10. Sad to hear about Tyler's injury, but I do think that having Drew Pine as a qualified backup will put us in good stead. I do worry about his ability to run the ball. Tyler Buckner is really talented at that. But yes, we'll win. We'll cover the spread. Probably a little bit high on my prediction on offensive yards, but I'm saying 450.
Well, you obviously, like many, remember what Drew Pine did coming in that Wisconsin game. He was very helpful in that victory. All right, Kathy, good stuff. Thank you for your pick.
Thank you so much, Vic.
Take care. Representing now the congregation of Holy Cross, it's Father Robert Laskowski. Father Rob, how are we today?
Vic, I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
How's campus life after that 0-2 start?
It was a little bit difficult. A lot of the men here in Balmer Hall came back a little deflated, very sunburned. In addition to that, but we're praying and working for a victory coming up here.
All right, Father. I want more than prayers right now. I want your picks.
All right, prediction. I think that Notre Dame will win. I think it might be a close game. Don't think we'll cover the spread. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative in terms of yards and probably go around 250.
Wow. Okay. So a defensive game, obviously, in your words, but I like the pick. Father, thank you very much.
Thanks, Vic.
All righty. The John Cardinal O'Hara Society. We don't have Jack with us, but we'll get him again on the show. We'll go straight to the Rockney Athletics Fund. and Dave Mancinelli. Dave Mancinelli. What's up, Dave? How you doing? I remember you.
Vic, how are you?
Good,
Thanks
thank
for having
you.
me back.
You have the nicest Notre Dame room I've seen.
Thank you very much.
Artifacts behind you. It's a beautiful thing. All right, so
thanks. It's fun.
Dave, which loss upset you more, the Ohio State loss or the one to Marshall?
Oh, Marshall. Yeah,
that's figures.
It's bad
I was
dream.
actually pretty upbeat after the Ohio State loss.
Yeah, I was very. I was. You know, that was a good effort.
Sure.
Better effort in game one, but you know, we have a young team, young coaches. It's going to happen. Rome was
okay. So how does this young team at 0-2 and of course the head coach still looking for his first W at Notre Dame? How do they rebound and beat Cal? Tell us.
I think they're going to mix it up more. I think Pine's going to be more of a rollout passer, not as a runner, but as a thrower. I think he'll read the secondary a little bit better than we think.
Yeah, it's a much different offense now. Give us your picks.
I think the Irish will cover. They'll win 27-13, and we'll have 360 yards of offense.
Cover and 360 yards of offense. David, thank you as usual. Great pick.
Thanks, Vic. Go Irish.
Right. And now proudly representing the John Cardinal O'Hara Society, a double-domer, another one. Jack Sullivan, 67 and 71 from Greenville, Tennessee. What's up, Jack? How are you, my friend?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Wet out here, though.
Yeah. Were you fine after watching the game on Saturday?
I actually didn't watch it. I followed it at the library on the internet, and I left early, went to Mass, pray for the team.
Well, good for you.
Good for you. Again?
We need more of that. We need more prayers at this point.
That's something I did back in the Faust days. Learned it then.
Okay. All right. Well, Jack, let's not mince words here. Who do you like? Give us your picks for this one.
I like Notre Dame to win the game, but I don't think they'll cover the spread and the total yardage. And I assume this is net yardage. Be 385.
Boy, you're on the number. You're on the money. I wish I spent more time at the library. I would have really had an easier time at Notre Dame. Unfortunately, I did not do that, Jack. So thanks for your advice and your counsel on that. And hopefully you win an Irish hoodie, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Time for my pick. Listen, when you're 0-2, it's batten down the hatches. This is one of those you can't lose type of games. And Cal's 2-0, I get that, but come on, they beat UC Davis. This is a game where you have to physically beat the opponent, okay? I don't care about pretty points. I don't care how much they win by. I mean, this is not, it's a substance over style kind of game. So my pick here is pretty simple. Notre Dame will win, and the final score will be 24-10. Yes, they will cover. 406 yards of total offense. I like Drew Pine. I like the fact that he's already won a game in which he's had to come in and contribute, so he's got that going for him, and I like the Irish to win this game. Good luck. Hopefully you can all win a Here Come the Irish hoodie. By the way, as mentioned there earlier by Kathy, the Irish will be wearing green uniforms this week, and there's a vast history of the green jersey game at Notre Dame.
Southern Cal was coming in as a very highly rated team, and we knew we'd have our hands full.
A shocker here. The Irish look like they are fired up this afternoon. They've all come out of a Trojan horse.
Coach Devine called the captains into his office. I want to say it was like a Tuesday, early in the week. He had the equipment manager bring in some, what we thought were samples of green jerseys. And he said, "What do you think of these guys? I'm thinking of having the team wear them on Saturday."
The history and the legends of the game truly living in these Friday night pep rallies.
The night before, Willie Fry, who's the captain of the team, said, everybody wear green tomorrow.
And if Willie Fry wants everybody to wear green, then we will be the Green Machine. We are Green Machine. We are the Green Machine. We are. On a Saturday afternoon, this is the picture. And we're ready for game number 49 between the Southern California Trojans and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
While the Irish were warming up in their traditional blue and gold, Devine secretly had a new green jersey placed in each of the players' lockers.
So when we get into the locker room after we had gone out for warm-ups and we see these green jerseys, man, and I'm telling you, it was like pandemonium.
I see guys jumping around with these jerseys on, green jerseys, and it's like all of a sudden the hair, I'm like, everything's, you're like, it's in like a fog. It's like.
Coach Devine said, get those blue jerseys off and put those green jerseys on.
I still to this day don't know how these guys got their jerseys on that quick.
Notre Dame with the gold helmets is about to come on the field, but right down below us, green-shirted Irish come on the field wearing green jerseys, gold helmets, gold numerals, and gold pants.
And I tell you, we were just so hyped. It was absolutely no way that we were going to lose that football game.
I remember talking to those guys from SC that were later my teammates that said, we knew we were done.
He's the man in motion out to the right now as Montana barks the signals and hands it off, and tracking straight ahead into the end zone. Dave Mitchell goes, touchdown, Notre Dame! Looks and throws into the end zone, touchdown, Notre Dame! In the end zone and goes to the tight end. Tim McAfee makes the grab. And Smith blocked. The kick was blocked by Notre Dame. It is picked up and running with the football is number 75, Jay Case. He runs it all the way from the 30-yard line in for a Notre Dame score.
For a football player, and I think you ask any football player, to admit defeat when you're number one in the country.
49-19, Notre Dame has really thumped Southern California today.
I don't remember anybody's touchdown plays. I just remember that. You know, it's Notre Dame.
All right, let's get to it, Ryan Harris. Let's see how the Irish can improve to 1-2. Get on that dub board. Cal's coming in. Again, Cal is a Pac-12 opponent. Always respect your opponent. What are your keys to victory if you're Notre Dame?
Number one, play fast. Number two, get some turnovers on defense. That's a big piece. That was a part of Marcus Freeman's defense last year that hasn't shown up. And number three, have fun. I know it's hard when things are tough. You're not winning games you want to win, but you got to have fun playing the game that makes you play fast, that makes you play physical. So first and foremost, play fast, get some turnovers on defense, and have some fun.
How meaningful is it to wear the green jerseys? And did you get a chance to do that when you played there?
I did get a chance to wear the green jerseys. That was the Bush Push game. It's something really cool. You know, few other teams in the nation have the ability to wear that alternate jersey, and it does bring back all those memories of the great football players that litter Notre Dame's tradition.
So is it like a lucky leprechaun type of thing? Do you feel faster? Do you feel stronger?
You feel faster, and you can see the confusion on the opponent too. They're thinking, "Oh my gosh, you know, what's this green jersey? I'm not used to it." And then the emotion increases when you wear that green jersey.
All right, I want to promote a couple things coming up shortly this season. We have a lot of live chats in the next few weeks. First up, September 21st, Vice President for University Relations Lou Nani sits down with President of Notre Dame, Father John Jenkins. Then on September 28th, a live chat with Lee Kiefer, the 2021 Olympic gold medalist in fencing and the first American foil fencer in history to win an individual Olympic gold, along with Garrick Meinhardt, a two-time individual NCAA champion, two-time Olympic bronze medalist. Finally, on October 5th, a chat with Dick Ebersol, TV exec, senior advisor for NBC Universal and Olympics, and the former chairman of NBC Sports. The man practically invented sports television. These chats, by the way, will air live 12 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to tune in right here on this here channel. Although the Friday Night Bash, exciting, upbeat party in the concourse of Notre Dame Stadium, Friday, September 16th. Food, drinks, live music, tickets, $12, children 11 under and free. And finally, the Notre Dame Music Festival. That one is going to be held on September 21st, featuring performances from several different Notre Dame groups. And that's the beauty of Notre Dame, Ryan. No matter what happens on the football field, we stick together. I got to tell you the story. So I go out to Broncos practice. You know, we live in Denver. You played for the Denver Broncos. I go out to Denver Broncos practice 2 days after the Irish lose to Ohio State. And I am wearing a Notre Dame shirt at the time. And I forgot how many members of the Denver Broncos went to Ohio State, played football at Ohio State, and they let me have it. But you know what? I just smiled and took it with pride. Nothing will deter you as a Notre Dame fan.
Your faith will be tested. We all know this, but the belief and faith in Marcus Freeman, this program, it is a worthy cause. I can't wait for their first win, and I think it's coming this week, Vic.
Well, let's hope so, my friend. You're going to be calling the game as usual. Ryan Harris, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in to Here Come the Irish. We're going to let you go now with the trumpets under the dome.